This particular device here is mostly used in a situation like a soap opera or a sitcom. This has made me my living for the past 4 years, man.
Okay,
You know?
this is wild.
Let me clean some of this stuff off here. It's also used as a workbench at times when I'm not around, you know what I mean? It's a reliable platform. They call it a sound boom. This one happens to be made by J.L. Fisher in California. Mr. Fisher has done something very smart. These are just rentals. You can't buy these. So every year when we're done with them, we pack them up and they get sent back to California. This thing will move in a couple of different directions. We could use either a 3-wheel or a 1-wheel selection. This is in 3-wheel right now. And this is the crab function, and this will get us glide back and forth sideways. The single wheel is also good for getting into tight spots.
During the show, you have somebody managing the cables.
And somebody pushing. Right, and me up top.
And you're up here.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's one heck of a vantage point for this show.
I see a lot of good stuff from up there, man. Absolutely. I call it the best seat in the house.
I'm sure.
You know? That's my opinion. You know, we do have a complement of wireless microphones that we use every show. But unlike the wireless microphones that are really, you know, body-based, sometimes they're in the costuming, sometimes they're in wigs, and they can get you a really good sound. What this offers that the RF mics typically don't is you get the room sound from this, you know? Because I'm usually focused about 18 inches above people I'm looking to cue to, that little space in between, that air, gives you that room sound. And that, to me, is what makes it sound so a little more natural or maybe a little more realistic than a body mic might. Body mics do the job, no doubt about it. And they're tricky things to get right. And our guys are some of the best. They get it right all the time. This is a slightly different approach. It does take up a little space on the floor, but so does that thing over there, you know, the camera crane.
Right.
Which is fine. When scenery is all set up here, it does get a little crowded. I've got a real good guy pushing me, a fellow by the name of Aaron, who's been doing it for a while with me. We're a real good team together. He can get me into some tight spots. He can get me in there quickly, and he does it very casually, very gently, without a lot of yahoo, get that out of the way, move that, the boom's coming in. He's just very relaxed and subtle and low key, and he gets me where I gotta go. And it's been a good team for a long time here, he and I. We did a fairly complex thing yesterday, which was this Paley center panel, and we had what we call an on-air move, where I'm usually playing a set, and the other boom is with me, and that'll be that, we'll be here. But we got multiple locations on this, and to avoid using too many RFs, what I'll do is I'll make a move from this set. They'll take a small bit over on 3F, little dialogue, and in that moment, I'll make a repo live on air and get to the next set, which happens to be on the tongue right now. And that's always a little thrilling because there's show day, this studio gets incredibly crowded and there are obstacles everywhere. There's moving sets, moving props, actors moving back and forth, stuff coming from the prop room being brought out. So it's an incredibly chaotic environment, and you have to be really careful. Lights hang low, scenery sits high. If I'm stationed over here in stage 5, which sets up right over here, depending on where I'm moving to next, either 6 or coming back down this way, I will swing sometimes very close to an audience member, you know, and they'll get a big thrill out of it. Suddenly they're part of it. But you have to be careful because this thing can do damage. When I first started as a young man, I was swinging under a light on a soap opera, and I hit a prop guy in the forehead and drew blood.
Oh, gosh.
And at that point, I realized the responsibility behind this. You know, it's not just we're not just having fun here, we're working, and there's people's health at stake. The edge of that cage it's really solid. It's got a lot of pointy edges on it, and it can do real damage should it connect with some flesh. So I've learned over the years a level of responsibility that I think I bring to this every time I get up there. And I think that's allowed me to be, I'm going to say quite modestly, one of the better boom operators in the business right now, only because I've got a lot of experience. You know, I've done a lot of stuff over many years. This is a Sheps. This is one of my new. This is like about a $4,000 microphone. It sounds really soft, really smooth. It's got a great pickup pattern. It allows me a level of flexibility. Ideally, you want this kind of mic placement. You want to be within 18 inches inside of a little strike zone, and you don't always get that because of lighting, because of blocking, because a piece of scenery might be in your way. So you have to remain adaptable. But if you can keep this on axis, pointed in that strike zone, you can be 4 feet away from them and still get something usable. I'd like to be a lot closer all the time, but sometimes you can't be. This microphone will allow you a good pickup. It's got a lot of flexibility. It'll pan left and right, simple panning maneuver. It'll extend a great deal.
Wow.
I got that kind of reach. And then the cage where the microphone sits will also pan left and right, and it'll do something called articulation, will allow me this kind of movement. I can pick up, I could drop it right down over somebody's head. I can point out a direction and give me some distance. It is actually the right tool for the job, So on a normal boom, those last 2.5 feet to 3 feet, that's an extension we put on. We add, so we can play a little further back and still get deep into a set. There's even a larger extension, I think, maybe a 4 foot and maybe even a 5 footer that give me even longer range. But because it makes the boom with it racked back so far out, it's a little tough working in a tight area. So this is enough to cause concern at times. I can reach way upstage, and then I can get back really quick, and hopefully I'm getting the dialogue that the boss needs. That's my main concern, So this is the crank to extend the arm. And you see there's a series of pulleys and rollers that allow a really smooth and quiet movement of this thing. I'm going to go far and say, and maybe Mr. Fisher will hear this, that this is the Rolls-Royce of sound booms. This is the cueing handle back here. This allows the microphone to move left and right. And as I squeeze the handle, I get what they call the articulation. Okay, so you see the articulation and the cueing. And every once in a while, we're doing everything all at once, and that's where really having some seasoned skills comes in handy, This has become second nature to me. I've been at it for such a long time that this is, it's almost like sticking my arm to shake somebody's hand. I could do it the same way, In fact, every once in a while when somebody's not looking, I'll tap them on the back of the head, or I'll move a glass on a table in a scene just to harass and annoy, because that's my thing. And it always brings a smile to somebody's face, Somebody will do this, like, what the heck was that just now? And they'll look up at me, and I'll just turn my head and say very casually, it wasn't me lying through my teeth, because it certainly was. But like I said, it always brings a smile to somebody's face. And I find that to be a most useful tool for that reason, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then on my headsets, I talk to my communication pack is here. I talk to Bob inside the mixer on one channel, and then I have an isolated channel that I can talk to the other boom just quietly between he and I. Because on this channel, there'll be the A1, there'll be the A2s will be on that channel. Sometimes the music room hears, or some of the other audio rooms will hear. And it gets crowded sometimes. It gets a little busy, so I don't want to contribute to that chatter. So if I just talk to Bob quick, and then I could work out my other issues with the other boom on an ISO channel. I'm wearing a double muff headset, and what I like to do is I like to have the A1 on one side, the control room, and then this side would be my program. So I'm just hearing what I'm doing. I'm hearing the mix. So I'm hearing what I'm doing, I'm hearing what the other boom is doing, and I'm hearing if he's incorporating any RFs into it. So from out here, I can sort of pre-mix it for him a little bit. Depending on my positioning, I can give him a signal that is maybe a little more, that needs to be maybe a little less manipulated inside. Or if I see the other boom is working high because of a lighting issue or a shot issue, I can match that with the other side by, bringing up a little bit and giving a little distance, a little air between me and my subject. And I'm nothing but proud and thankful that Mr. Fisher allowed me to operate a vehicle like this that contributes to these laughs, this good time that this show is, man.
Since there's two booms on this show, what are you two communicating, and how are you becoming in sync with this other person?
Right. Well, that's a really good question. What you have oftentimes, let's say we'll take a look at our map right here, and let's say in in stage 6, which is right here, you get a pretty wide berth here. We could put a lot of scenery and a lot of actors in this. And so what we will do is watch the director's blocking, and then decide on the movement who should be picking up what dialogue. And it really is, after a while, it's just become like, okay, here's the plan. We're starting over here with boom 1. There's going to be a crossing to boom 2. Somebody's going to come in through this door. And it's really just working out the choreography, you know? And the more I've done it, the easier it becomes, you know? And then when you have a partner who you can work with comfortably, it almost becomes like silent messaging. We don't even need to communicate. We watch the movement, we see who's speaking, we know who needs to be picked up, we know through the conversation what line is coming up next, and we know where to be for that. On the soap operas, on the sitcoms more specifically, I used to have a tray that would hold my script, and I would have a marked script that I would follow while I was doing it. Here, the dialogue changes so quickly, and by the time I got the changes, the dialogue that I had is usually invalid. So I don't even bother with that. What I try to do is read cue cards, because cue cards have the most immediate updates, and that's what the cast is reading on set at that moment. So I've developed a little routine where I could take my eyes off this and just watch and just read the cue cards and get an idea whose line is coming up next, and then prepare for that. And then when the cue card changes, I can briefly glance over and see that if I'm stuck. That's sort of a last resort, but a very helpful last resort. It allows me, it gives me a heads up. Otherwise, you remember the dialogue, you remember the blocking, and many years ago, one of the old-time boom operators that schooled me was my mentor. He gave me a very interesting piece of advice. He says, before they speak, you're gonna see their Adam's apple move. And he says, you watch that, and before any voice comes out, you're gonna see that movement. And that was a very helpful piece of information for me, and now I use that all the time. Right before he goes, and then you make your move, and suddenly you're there on the line. Because what you don't wanna do is pick up, no, I got the line, no. I want the whole line at that point. This is the first line in the signal here. Every other audio room in the building gets only what I can deliver. And so it's my job to get the best signal possible all the time. This is probably the least technical device of what the rest of the audio department is using, but that signal starts right there at that microphone, and it starts with me. And if I don't get it right, it's kind of tough to get it back. So I've got to be sharp and pay attention, and got to give these guys what they need, you know?
How do you boom, if it's you and I right here, and you have a couple of characters here, are you physically going from one to the other with that little hinge there?
Absolutely,
okay.
Yeah. Depending on the distance between the cast, we could either, if there's a 3-foot split between characters, that's usually comfortable enough for one of us to do it. If the split gets a little bigger, maybe the second boom will come in and we'll isolate the characters. This way, we're not queuing too far away and running the risk of not connecting with that first line that they're delivering. So to avoid that, we'll isolate on separate booms. I like to do as much as I can on one boom, so the mixer isn't going back and forth between faders to get what he needs. It's easier to open one fader and get all the dialogue. But sometimes it's just out of range. The actors are too far away, or the dialogue is moving too quickly to be able to get precisely where you need to be to get that crisp first line. So that's when we start breaking up, deciding who's going to be where, when you need to be there, entrance, exits, depending on the shots, depending on the lighting. All these elements are what we need to consider as we operate in a set, especially in a live show. You want to make sure you've got all your marks, even though things change, because in a live show, when Warren has got his eyes out, I want to make sure I can deliver the best product for the audio department and for Lauren. That's the main guy right there, and I want to make sure that he's getting what he needs, and I want to be the guy to deliver it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you could see it on air, it would be doing a lot of this.
It would be doing a little bit of this,
and then pushing
a little bit
out,
of that,
finding different.
and really all dependent on the blocking of the sketch. Sometimes they're sitting in a chair in front of a green screen, and I'm just there. No movement. Those are the gifts. And sometimes there'll be 7 or 8 people in a sketch, or What do we have here? See, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 plus people in a sketch. And then the choreography becomes a little more complex. So we have to work it out clearly with each other and the mixer. And there's always, between dress and air, there's always major cuts for time or humor considerations. And when those cuts are made, this is when you've got to be this is when you have to be your sharpest, because now it's not what you just did in dress rehearsal. It's going to be slightly different. Don't get locked in, be flexible, read the cards when you can, and always do your best. It's easy to do it 4 or 5 times the same way. On a feature film, when I'm holding a fishpole and it's take 20, you get a real opportunity to get it exactly right. This is about compromise. And it's about compromise because things change so quickly, and we still need that same high quality. We still need to get that mic in the right place to get all that line, so everybody down the line has a signal to work with. Some of the sitcoms I've worked on, big living rooms, deep staircases, but it's live with an audience, but it's not live to air. So that gives you there's always a chance, okay, we didn't get that, can we take that again? And we'll get a chance to get it again. This, if we miss it during air, it's missed for all eternity, And that's what we're trying to avoid. We want to be precise, we want to be on top of it when it's at its most chaotic. Right. And that's what we strive for here, And I think, my God, I'd like to think that 29 years of them keeping me here has suggested that I've maybe delivered a product that they find useful. You know what I mean? Yeah. Would you like to get up there and
oh my goodness,
slap it around a little bit?
Yes,
absolutely. Let me show you how to get up there.
Foot here.
Right.
Grab this.
Grab that.
Oh.
And get up there. Okay. Now, would you get on the other side of the chair? Don't even sit down. We're going to take the chair away. So bring your left foot over it. And we get that out of your way. There you go. Now squeeze it a little bit. Yeah. You see what it's doing to the mic. Now twist it. And you see how it's moving on a rotational.
How cool.
Okay. Come all the way. You can come all the way around. It's almost like a full 360, but maybe
wow.
all the way around. Exactly. Now that right there will give you the extension.
Cool. Oh wow. And you just have this under your muscle memory. This is something you really have to get used to.
Exactly.
Wow.
Bring all those skills together. Now what we're going to do now is you're going to release it, and you're going to feel the full weight of it, and you can move the arm up and down, left and right. So release this right now by trying to get counter.
Whoa.
And now you feel the weight of it. Now you can open that, now grab that exactly.
Oh my
And now
goodness.
you've got the full weight of this thing. Now you're moving it left and right. Now you're tilting it up and down. Now you're articulating left and right.
Wow. This is not easy.
No, it takes some skill. It takes some time to familiarize yourself with the mechanism.
It's very intuitive.
And it's
very
absolutely
intuitive, but you really have to think, or at least practice.
Do. And especially when you're moving quick and things are flashing in front of you, especially not necessarily in the sketch, but while we're moving live on air, when there's all these other elements to contend with, which is moving scenery, which is moving actors, which is lighting changes, which is the gamut of what goes on here. This is what goes on here.
You got to watch your feet.
You have to watch your feet. People tend to lean, and I don't allow that, because every once in a while... Lean on it because it's here, it's there. But oftentimes what I'm doing is I'm freezing a shadow somewhere. I may see a shadow on the wall and I can't get out of it, and lighting, this is just what it is. I might just have to freeze it until the next shot where I can get myself out of it. But if I'm freezing a shadow and somebody's leaning on the boom and then they move up, suddenly that shadow is wiggling on the wall. It's like, hold on, we got something on the wall there. So this is it's something that I have to take very seriously, and something that I do take seriously. And I'd like to think I get the results necessary.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so lock it back down.
So lock that down.
Do this.
Exactly.
Now
and that's good. And that can sit. There's a lock there, but you don't have to worry about that. There's also a lock here for the articulator, and there's a lock here for the panning.
This is just like a beautiful piece of engineering.
Well crafted.
Can I get some close-ups of this thing?
You certainly
this
can,
thing is
sir.
incredible.
Absolutely.
Okay, I don't want to fall off of this.
Yeah, you don't step too far.
Got to figure out where okay, so this is boom op perspective here. And then just look at how gorgeous this whole thing, and everything is just really smooth and quiet.
Absolutely. It's a delicate mechanism, believe it or not. For all its bulk, it's a quite delicate mechanism. Every once in a while, we'll run into problems where I might grab onto something or I might get hit by a piece of scenery and suddenly we'll come undone here. And then I have to quickly refer back. I have pictures to get this restrung quickly. Sometimes it bounces off of here. That's a whole nother story. Bouncing off a roller is not terrible. I can get that. I can get that quickly. But you need a second or two to recoup this whole thing, you know.
And are you usually sitting or standing?
I usually stand. I find I get the best leverage standing. I mean,
whole show.
Sitting is for the whole show. Sitting is in between, you know, while we're rehearsing or in between, you know. But I prefer standing for the show. I feel I got the best. I have the best. It just gives me quicker movement. I like the way it looks. It just feels better for me. That's all, you know. And you are there, sir.
We did it.
You did it, man.
Wow,
Absolutely.
This is so cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, that's I'm very proud of what I do here. I'm very proud of this mechanism. It served me well. It's allowed me a beautiful house on the lake, and if I can. I've got a few more seasons left in me. I'm 65 years old now, and if I can go for another couple of seasons, if they'll have me, I would consider myself honored to have been able to walk this into the sunset. You know?
Amazing.
Yeah, totally. That's how I feel. I'm a little partial though. You know what I mean? This has taken me to some interesting places. I've met some interesting people through this, and I'm considering my career. I couldn't ask for more. It's brought me fun. It's brought me some financial considerations, and I've met a lot of great people through it. I'm forever thankful. I'm forever thankful to Mr. Fisher, Mr. Michaels, and all my compatriots here. We've done a fine job, and I couldn't be more proud of the work I do and this device that helped me do it. Every Saturday night at 11:30, my palms still get a little sweaty, because I know it's coming, and it's gonna be exciting, it's gonna move quick, and before you know it, it's like, thank you and good night, and it's like, wow, we did it again, man.
Wow.
And everybody's still standing, you know?
Cool.